We are live. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome to the show. I'm David Starlight. Every week I come to you live, same time, same place, intuitive readings and global consciousness, a connection to what is real, what is counterfeit, what is the shadow, and a yearning for inner transformation as well as external transformation. During this broadcast, you can support my page by sending stars, a digital gift that helps me to earn money. So a little bit of information about me. I grew up in Africa. I didn't set up to build a business. I went through a lot of travel experiences working in many, many different countries, something like 10 countries at this point. And I became a global healer, a global practitioner, a wellness practitioner, a healing practitioner of the healing arts. So I delved into a lot of different pathways, Taoism, Buddhism, and certain wellness therapies, including yoga. Hey, Marianne, welcome to the show. How are you? Including yoga, including nutrition, nutritional medicine, herbal medicine. What else did I delve into? Energy healing, Reiki, Taoist healing, and so on. So I delved into a lot of pathways, life coaching, aromatherapy. It was kind of also because I was in school. I was in a holistic medicine school, a wellness school. I was trying out lots of different therapies, whatever was available. And we had a student clinic, so we delved into many pathways, explored many approaches. Marianne says, good day for a northeaster. So is that the wind? Do you have a lot of wind? It's really December already, so it's kind of like a winter time. So how is it going over there, Marianne? And so I was telling you a little bit my origin story, my founder story, lots and lots of travel. And in subsequent years, I have been studying mental health, studying Buddhism. Actually, I have a master's degree in Buddhism and a master's degree in mental health. So my role as a teacher is about spiritual mentoring, contemplative practice, contemplative psychotherapy, and evidence-based trauma work and contemplative practice. Marianne, good day, Australia. Good morning, Australia. Rain or snow plus wind. Rain just stopped. Wow. Well, it's pretty gray over here. We were having a bit of rain, which was kind of nice to get some rain the last day. When was it? Yesterday. Yesterday was a pretty rainy day, but then it cleared up completely and became sunny. So at the moment we're a little bit overcast and gray. So often this time of year it gets very wet and rainy, and then you have these glimpses of sunshine. It can get pretty hot as well, because it is, technically speaking, it's summertime. So Marianne, we're on the opposite sides of the planet. I am here in Australia. So let me know any questions, comments, anything from last week you would like to explore, discuss, lived insights, authenticity, and resonance. I was talking to it wasn't actually a friend, it was the mother of a friend. And we have this connection, this family connection, because it was a good friend of mine growing up, and she moved to Canada when I was 13. When I was 13, she moved to Canada. And so we've kept in touch a very long time. I think she must be around 80-ish now. And we were talking a lot last night about my background, my family background, my childhood background. So I was actually up quite late, and I think I was thinking about certain things about childhood. And I really a topic I specialize in, a topic I'm passionate about is childhood wounding. a lot of us grew up in a type of ancestral trauma event where these patterns of dysfunction continue through generations. So I'm here to alchemize that, to help people grow from it, and love over fear, to work through the obstacles, transcend them, alchemize them, shift them, and allow them to be, forgive the past, come into a sense of wisdom. Because any obstacles, any challenges, any life experiences we get through, we gain wisdom. We gain compassion for ourselves, compassion for others, when we can go through any kind of crisis, challenge, any situation. It always presents some kind of mirror. There's always more depth we can find in ourselves. And what is this teaching us? Why are we going through this experience? So there is a mirror in our reality, a conditional reality, and there's a sense of karmic residue, a sense of karmic lessons. What are we learning from this? So our experiences can be processed through the light of awareness, through the light of wisdom, bringing wisdom to those experiences through the light of awareness. We do, in my experience, there is productivity, there's growth, there is expansion in witnessing things that went on in our lives. And that's where therapy is helpful, witnessing them, not necessarily getting stuck in them. So it's a lot of therapeutic approaches can be very long-winded. They can take forever and people don't really make any progress. So it's important to make progress by making shifts. So I really like the coaching approach, because the coaching approach is about results. It is about performance. Not that life is a performance, but if you can think of life, it is a type of performance. How are we managing? Have we made progress? So if you just see a therapist and you're not making progress, then I would say at some point it's time to cut those ties and move on, because there needs to be a sense of witnessing and feeling whatever we experienced, and then being able to release and let go of those experiences. If we are just stuck in the past, that's also not going to help us move forward. So there's got to be a sense of safety, of anchoring in the divine energy, the call it nervous system reset, to find safety and peace. So our nervous system needs to be in a safe space for us to process old wounds, alchemize them, and come back into the light of awareness, the light of growth. Oh yes, my family had its issues, but it was also people who thought they were better than my family. Yeah, so I think maybe you could explore that more, Marianne. My family had its issues. It was also people who thought they were better than my family. Yeah, that's interesting, the judgments people have. And often it is this sense of entitlement, or the sense of we are better than others. We are better than others. So we're never better than others. We're all on a different pathway. And judgment may be the easiest thing to do, but it's not the highest level. It's not coming from the highest awareness. And where the gnosis comes in, the knowledge of the highest mysteries, the gnosis is a very much a higher kind of energy. You can think of it as the experiential aspect of faith, the experiential aspect of faith. And I tune into cosmic consciousness, and I believe we are all star seeds. So I am really connected to that aspect as well. Let me know in the comments if it means something to you. I like to quote Master Eckhart, who spoke of the eternal now. The eternal now. So it's always up to us to take whatever we have, to take whatever we've been given and alchemize it and work with it in our own internal lives and in the external world, with all the people in our lives that we affect and influence. We're here to be still and know, to come online as a multi-dimensional species with all these connections and abilities which are often hidden away. Let me know in the comments if this resonates, Marianne. I'm there for you. And interesting that often the people who judge the most have the most kind of issues, the most kind of challenges. Not always, but a lot of the time they are insecure. They're insecure and they're looking at everyone else to try and make themselves feel better. So always look at the origin, the source of the behavior. But sometimes we do need to confront the behavior itself, take protective action, take remedial action. We cannot just look for the source and the origin at all times. We also have to live in the world. We're here to live in the world as human beings, as lived human experiences, multidimensional beings. How many different ways did I learn how to make lemonade from lemons? I love that, Marianne. How my family found ways to come out on top. Wow. So it sounds like you went through the ringer. You went through a lot, Marianne, but you had a sense of purpose and a sense of what's real and what's counterfeit, what's real and what's fake. And you were able to push through, to overcome the hurdles, overcome the obstacles, and move through it in a peaceful way. I love the book, The Peaceful Warrior. Has anyone read that book or heard of it? The Peaceful Warrior. It really influenced me and how we navigate these challenges, almost like a martial artist. I had the fortune, the blessing to spend a few months in China studying martial arts, studying Chinese martial arts, wushu, qigong, tai chi, and some of you will know me from my tai chi or from my qigong. From my qigong lessons, my teacher always laughed at me when I said I wanted to teach qigong. He always laughed at me. One of my masters, I was actually in 4 different schools in China, so I spent quite a bit of time and exploring different pathways. And over there, it takes years to become an expert, to become a master. And really, the idea of teaching as a master is someone who's immersed themselves in this practice for years. So I'm very much a beginner in martial arts. I explore and I play with it. I don't take myself seriously, that's for sure. Marianne says, P.S. You're Not Listening by Eleanor Craig was my go-to book. Read it age 10. You're Not Listening. I don't think I've heard of that book, Marianne, so I'm really curious to hear more about that. I wonder if anyone else who's online also was influenced by that book, also maybe read that book. For me, I remember Dibs in Search of Self. I don't know if you are familiar with that book, Dibs in Search, and that was very impactful for me. It really made a lot of sense. Dibs in Search of Self. I remember at a later age coming across Viktor Frankl and finding that an incredibly powerful pathway. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning. So has anyone read that book? I was probably a teenager when I read that, and it really impacted me strongly. Dibs in Search of Self was a big one, and Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, and Logotherapy, which is about meaning. It's about finding meaning in your experience. They call it existential psychology, existentialism. Hard to Find, A Year in the Life of the Special Education Teacher and the Students of Her Class. That would be really fascinating and must have been so ahead of its time. Now that kind of thing is it's in the public, it's in the sort of collective knowledge or collective consciousness. People are aware of these special needs, but growing up, people were completely unaware. I had special needs myself, and no one gave a damn. No one really gave a damn. Pretty much, they didn't care. So there was just like teacher just treats everyone as the same, and big classes and no individual attention. So absolutely, it's fascinating, Marianne, that that impacted you. Were you yourself a person with special needs? I feel like almost everyone has special needs these days. ADHD, real fun to have. Not ADHD, so very, very common, especially with the diet, with nutritionally. A lot of people, because of their diet, ADHD is kind of a symptom of diet, of nutrition, of various health interventions. It ultimately, it always speaks to the soul purpose, the dharma of each person. What are they here to do? What are they here to learn? So, Marianne, you had a lot. That sounds like an amazing book. Anyone read Dibs in Search of Self or Man's Search for Meaning? Viktor Frankl. Existentialism. And what does it mean to receive nourishment? To receive nourishment from, because from our earliest age, we receive nourishment from the womb. So our reality, at least subconsciously, was developed out of this womb of darkness, the fertile void, in which we received all our needs. As an infant, as a inside our mother's womb, we received all our wounds. So we have this sense of, I would say, a sense of stability that comes from deep in our consciousness, deep in our memory. And then we arrive in a world. It must be such a crazy experience to be birthed, to come out, depending on which way you come out, but to come out into all the lights, and you would think that they would dim the light or have a more harmonious kind of setting for birthing. But unfortunately, most people are very dogmatic in how things were in the past and how things should be, with things like bright lights, which is not really a very nice way to come into the world. It's a pretty harsh reality. We sort of get a sudden jolt of being in a 3D world. Marianne says girls worse, but boys worse. Girls worse, but boys worse. 1-to-3 ratio. So it's more common amongst boys, Marianne, the ADHD. And boys definitely have a lot of sort of boisterous energy. That sport is so important. I would say sporting activities, things where kids can run around. And unfortunately now, a lot of the kids are given smartphones, and their postures become like that. They are leaning over, and it's quite unfortunate. I've seen kids, and it's like, I think that's long-term damage to their actual spine. Their spinal development is not it's not in line with what is natural and what is healthy. So they literally have seen kids looking like this and thinking, wow, that is really, really sad. So have you seen this? Does it mean something to you? What do you think of the kids who look like that, and the kids who don't play outside? You're not outside. You're not playing with each other, playing sport, the things that we used to do as kids. No smartphones. And the only phone we had was this big chunky thing. It was about the size, double the size of my head, a big chunky thing. That was the way phone calls were made. And it's interesting to think about that in the past. What was it like for you? What phones did you have? There were people who didn't even have phones. People who didn't have phones. Imagine life without phones. And sorry, Marianne, it's just there was something going on with the mouse. All right, fun with that. Forceps and face up. I read the Riot Act. 3 boys to each girl, the X chromosomes to blame. So, Marianne, I haven't been through that experience, but maybe I was on the receiving end of it. So I did go through the experience, but not as a woman, definitely not as a woman giving birth, but as a baby. Forceps and face up. Yeah, it's very, very strange how our medicine is so brutal. They should call it brutal medicine. It can be so extreme, and the environments that people create that are for health or for care are so unconscious, or so kind of, surely there's some idea of what health is, what healing is, and what that requires, the type of energy and environment that people thrive in, very much natural lighting, green, earth, mother nature, trees, sunshine, pure air, clean air. So there's a lot of elements that are very, everyone kind of, I would say we know intuitively, it's just common sense, a lot of these elements that people need. Water, they need positive energy around them to recover, to promote healing, to promote recovery. Marianne says rotary phone. So is that what you had, Marianne? And regarding ADHD, the X chromosomes to blame. Is that true? That's interesting. So the X chromosomes to blame. Blame it on the X, Marianne. Marianne says, yep. Anyone else online and has any questions? Because I'm rattling on a bit at the moment. And just thinking about being in a womb, and which is a kind of water-like state, I believe you're kind of in you're in a liquid environment. So whenever you're in water, whether it's a bath, taking a bath, or whatever water in the sea, in a river, there's also, depending on the temperature, there's a sense of coming home to the womb. There was something I used to do in Thailand. I experienced it a few times. What was it called? Watsu. Have you ever heard of Watsu? Watsu is a treatment in water, where the therapist is in the water with you, and it's set to body temperatures. I think it's 37.5 degrees or 37, 38 degrees. It's set to body temperature, and so you're in this womb-like state. There's someone else there holding you, and they usually put flotation devices around the feet and the legs, so you are kind of lifted up, so you can completely let go. And there is a trust thing of really letting go. Your therapist, often they'll put things over your ears. You'll be in a very closed off state, insular kind of state, of tuned into a type of womb-like energy. And then your therapist can move you around, can hold you, I've had sort of even kind of treatments where they do Bowen therapy, for instance, underwater or in the water, and they can move you along. You can move with the water. So it's very beautiful, very tranquil. Marianne says sounds relaxing, very tranquil, very connected to this womb-like presence, which perhaps you can think of as our source, as a human being, our source, our origin. Of course, our soul goes way back, much further than that. Whereas our soul origin, a lot of us feel connected to the stars, perhaps, starseed origin, and perhaps we have had some readings or insights or seen extraterrestrial vessels or had connection with extraterrestrial species, which may have been woven into our experience, woven into our childhood even. It could be something in the imaginary realm, something that we were astral traveling as kids, perhaps, imagining other planets, other life, and going into these kind of journey-like consciousness experiments where we explored other planets. So for me, it has been part of movies. It has been part of movies. So there is a lot of this consciousness in humanity. Can you see how close my sisters will move to? They are stressing me out. I'm sorry to hear, Marianne. What's going on with them? Are they just stressing everyone out? So we are just going to pick a card about this energy, Marianne. Because there's always some kind of lesson, some kind of representation that is emerging. All right. So the card that's coming out is about isolation, physical connection, and community. So that means that they need connection. They need connection, that's clear. So they need to feel connected, supported. Seems like the fear is isolation. The fear is loss of connection to community. So there's an underlying fear there. Marianne says they're being stressed by our cousins over nonsense like just a washing just a washing machine. They're being stressed by our cousins over nonsense like just a washing machine. So often people externalize or they act out about things that seem really small and irrelevant because the internal part of them, that maybe their nervous system is shot or they're stressed about something different and they're acting out that stress, they're expressing that stress in order to come into balance, come into equilibrium. So the golden children, the inner child, tenderness, innocence. So there's really in your interactions with them, come back to that sense of innocence, of holding, of reassuring them that they are supported. They own it, not the cousins. They own it, not the cousins. All right, so let's just have another. Let's just see another card. I'm just watching what's going on around, so looking around. All right, so there's a kind of block in the channels here. There's a block to connecting to spirit. So these cards are really reminding them and reminding you to remember where you come from spiritually. We're talking about a physical origin, but your spiritual origin. Connect to something beyond you. So that's important that they start to emerge. Perhaps they can engage in a practice or something that emerges. And we have a message. Who do we have on screen? The one and only David. Hi, Butterfly, the one and only Butterfly, the one and only ascending universal butterfly. I wish I had you on WhatsApp because I had this beautiful grasshopper, this majestic grasshopper, and I took lots of photographs of the kind of green and yellow grasshopper. And then I realized there's a new thing in WhatsApp where you can AI it. So you can take say a picture of a grasshopper and make it into a little what do you call those things? It's the little I don't know what you call it, but you can make it from a picture. You can make it into a little thing, a little thing like a meme or something like that. Very easily. I tell them to hold on. Holiday time is hard when it comes to home hunting. The unit waiting for them will open up in January. Yeah, so really connect to spiritual sustenance, get back into their spiritual practice. Reconnect is what I'm getting for them, Marianne. Really reconnect spiritually, tune out of all this sort of chaotic stuff that gets in the way. So Butterfly, you're there. How are you? How is it all going? Thank you. A couple of weeks ago, you wrote beautiful comments in YouTube. It was really encouraging. And Butterfly says, I love grasshoppers. Beautiful. All right. So we are delving into a lot of different areas today. If there's any kind of resonance or anything that really makes sense to you, please do write in the comments. I was mentioning books that had influenced me and books that were meaningful to me. Are there any books that particularly stand out to you that really resonated? And I remember now, I don't think I wrote it on the screen. I wrote it now. It was called The Sacred Warrior, Dan Millman. And this book really resonated. I was able to meet the author, and eventually they made a film out of this book, which starred Nick Nolte. Nick Nolte was in the book. And Dan Millman, he did a workshop. He came to Australia. He did a workshop, and he was very inspiring. And I found the whole story such a wonderful thing for particularly kids, for young men. I would say young men, young boys. What a wonderful book. I'm not a girl, so I couldn't say if that would be inspirational for them, and I'm sure they could also enjoy it. But it had a very masculine kind of essence of standing up and becoming a man in the world, and all the lessons that came with it. So, inspirational book. Is there any book that's really influenced you, that really shifted how you felt about the world, maybe about how you felt about yourself? A Butterfly says, always a pleasure, David, to be in your presence. Well, thank you so much, Butterfly. I have a question for anyone who is tuning in, and it is about retreats. Is there a particular idea that you feel would be most resonant, that would be most compelling for people to focus on? Because the idea that came to me was rebirthing, and that seemed like a strong element of going back to the womb and coming into the world again with this energy. That really resonated with me personally. I have read the book. It was so inspirational. That's amazing, Butterfly. So Butterfly read the book. What's been inspiring you lately? Because I feel for me, there were so many books that inspired me, particularly in that age group from being a teenager to my 20s. There was just so much that lit me up. And now it's like I'm living the life, and there's less that I find as inspirational, as life-changing, as evolutionary. The Sacred Warrior, Dan Millman. So the other book that I'm thinking about was called Celestine Prophecy, and I also went to the workshop. What was his name? The author. What was his name? Redfield. James Redfield. So James did a workshop as well. He also came to Australia. So there I was in Australia, my two favorite books, my two favorite authors, and I got to meet them and spend time with them and go to their workshop. Celestine Prophecy, James Redfield. So that was a really powerful one. He wrote a few books, so it was a bit of a series. That at the time was just so inspirational. I think so many people were reading it, talking about it. It was all about energy, putting out your energy, connecting to the energy around you, not just thoughts or ideas, but actual energy. Putting your energy out there, Celestine prophecy. So is there anything that inspired you, that put you on the path, that awakened you, that was particularly inspirational, was particularly transformational, seemed to have all the answers for you, perhaps? Let me know in the comments section what was lighting you up and what would light you up. That's the big question. What was lighting you up? And is there anything that would light you up? Because here we are at the end, coming to the end of 2025, and it's another year has flown by. It is a time to reflect on our goals, on how the year went, what we learned, what we could learn, what we could still learn, and start to tune into new possibilities. 2026, a new year, new energies, new astrological profiles, a new Chinese year. What Chinese year are you? Does that impact your life? Does that have meaning? Do you follow Vedic astrology? Are you into Western astrology? It is something of an art and a science. The tapestry of the stars, the architecture of the universe, and all the energies do influence us. Butterfly says, David, I find so much inspiration in all the saints. My soul, I feel, is searching for more and more ancient knowledge. And that is truly amazing, is searching for gnosis. And is there anything specific you would like to share, Butterfly, about the sacred dimensions, which is the unseen world? And often talking about it almost diminishes it. It almost kind of brings it into sort of a narrow thought form type existence, whereas the extent, the expansion of that knowledge is truly infinite, truly limitless. The sacred dimensions, the perfect now, the vast void of expansiveness, the Christ consciousness, the indwelling of spirit. And in Sufism, the heart turned towards the beloved. I may get the title wrong, but if you mean I'm not crazy, lazy, or stupid. Dr. Edward Hallowell, his own discovery of navigating his own ADHD. Can a retreat teach the quitting of the mind? That's a great question, Marianne, and it would depend on the process. There are things that do help. There's a lot of things that do help, a lot of strategies. However, it would be a temporary thing, not a permanent thing. If you want to actually quit the mind, then arguably that's not really possible. So yes, certain types of meditation and exercise really help, so we can shift our being. So that was the book. I'm not crazy, lazy, or stupid. Was that the title of the book, Dr. Edward Hallowell? So your fascination is ADHD. That's something really that resonates, Marianne. ADHD. Yeah, there's definitely strategies and things that help. And being neurodivergent, a lot of us relate to this idea of being neurodivergent. It's become really common and more understood. Neurodivergence. It's essentially being different from the sort of normative or mainstream ideal or way the average person is. Neurodivergent means you're a little bit different in how your mind operates, how your mind sees the world, which is a great thing, arguably a great thing. We need that. We need those kind of people. Otherwise, we'll just get the same kind of reality, the same kind of reality a lot of us see around us, which may not quite work for pretty much anyone on the planet. Doesn't really work for the animals, doesn't work for nature, and doesn't work for making people happy. I know if I empty the thoughts, I get inspiration, possibly prophecy. That's inspirational, Marianne. Definitely the idea of emptying thoughts and being able to receive prophecy is something in many traditions, many prayer forms, many practices, and perhaps Butterfly can also mention some practices that really helped her. Butterfly says, I do love retreats. The real test comes when you step past the threshold. Is that the threshold of the mind, Butterfly? Which threshold are you referring to? It's chaotic being neurodiverse. I'm the equivalent of throwing a curveball in baseball. What a wonderful thing, Marianne. And you made me laugh, and it's kind of cool and inspirational as well. So it's all how you see it, all your perspective. And there's definitely something wonderful about seeing the world differently, operating differently. There's something wonderful about that, and very helpful for the collective. We need these curveballs, because otherwise we'll get the same as what we've had for the last few decades, and that wouldn't be the best. It can be chaotic depending on what flavor of neurodiversity you are expressing. Butterfly says of the mind, absolutely, David. So I have had this idea for about 14 years of holding retreats out, because I worked at a lot of retreats. And that's been something that's lasted 14 years, and I'm still yet to really bring this out into the world. I went through many different creations or different aspects of retreat being very much a spiritual awakening type of experience. And then the more I'm living in the world, the more I'm kind of, mainstreaming myself, perhaps. I'm mainstreaming myself and going, oh, well, this should be for everyone. And less about practice and more about being, more about spaciousness, which is what people really need to get away to digitally detox, to get away from all the Wi-Fi radiation and the constant chatter of the smartphone, the constant checking your device, checking your messages, what's coming through, what's happening in social media. It's addictive, and it really blocks creativity. It blocks us from our creative spirit. And Butterfly asks a great question. That's asking a great question. Do you think retreats are a form of escapism? Butterfly, that reminds me of my parents. Yes. And it's a great question. Where you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. So I remember that idea. I don't believe that retreats are a form of escapism, but like anything can be a form of escapism. So it depends on what is real and authentic to you, what is your soul path, and how you're using it. So like food, how are you using the food? Are you using it with reverence, with devotion, with kindness, with love? Are you imbibing that food with love? Are you appreciating that food? Is it through that intention, through that consciousness, it becomes nutritious, like medicine for the body? That if you have a throwaway kind of attitude to food and to the impact of our behavior on the environment and on animals, then it is escaping from reality, escaping from consciousness, escaping from love. So there's so many aspects to that question. And for some people, I would say, when you say escaping from what? So if someone is struggling with the world or unhappy and they go on a retreat, is that escaping from their suffering or their struggles? Not really. They're gaining a new perspective, gaining a new view, perhaps finding safety. A lot of ADHD people, they don't manage to find a sense of peace in the city kind of environment. The cities are not designed by people with generally a lot of consciousness in connection to the natural world, to what is healthy and vital for human beings. So noise pollution is not part of thriving. It affects us. We are sensitive to noise energies. It is pollution. So being away from that is healing in itself. Practicing silence is healing, but anything can be a form of escapism, Butterfly. Marianne says, think staying off the superhighway and staying on the local roads, you put different things together, colors and sounds. Staying off the superhighway and staying on the local roads, you put different things together. Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole different dimensional experience when things slow down or stop, and there's so many cultures that have some kind of Sabbath practice, Sabbath, and that's coming back to the origin, coming back to the simple practices, slowing everything down. Here we've had things like power failures, and we didn't have power, and it was actually a gift in appreciating power that we often take for granted. Maybe we take the power for granted, and also coming back into less technology, away from computer screens, away from phones, away from all the stimuli. Interesting when you said that, David. I received the word hideout. Yeah, in a way that can be a good thing. It really depends on how you use this idea of retreat and what your intentions are. And your soul path, for some people, I would say that's their soul path, to hide out in a retreat. It's a lot of people devote themselves, at least, for instance, Buddhist monks, they devote themselves to practice and they live a retreat existence. A retreat-like existence is a lot of them live at retreats. There's different religions who follow that kind of order. And then you can think of it as a hideout, but that practice is compelling, and that practice is influencing the collective vibration, the collective energy, the collective soul of humanity. So when people get together in community and pray, it has so much impact for the collective energy. Constant stimuli is what it is. I would say that hideout is actually important, is integral, is vital to survive in the world and to thrive in the world. So we need those periods of silence, of retreat, of rebirthing to live in the world, to thrive in the world. So that's how I would frame it. With anything, there's people with a lot of different unique struggles, and they do need sometimes medical supervision. They do need specific support. So when you offer something for everyone, sometimes it's not really for everyone. It's for people who resonate, who on that vibration, who need that kind of support, who are looking for that kind of growth. Not everyone wants to grow. A lot of people very resistant to change, very resistance to the idea of personal growth. I have family members who are actually, they have an animosity towards the idea of personal growth, and part of it is the ego, because the ego, for them, it's, well, what are you saying? There's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. So it's quite funny. It's actually hilarious when you think about it. People do take themselves too seriously. Me too. You know, nothing is so serious. We just sort of amorphous physical structure, or I guess we have some. It's not all amorphous, but our soul is just a light. Our soul is light and consciousness. So there's nothing so serious, and definitely this physical body. Don't think it's here to stay. It's impermanent. It's just a vessel for our consciousness. You know, take care of it, but don't take anything seriously. We all need to laugh, and laughter is the greatest medicine. Lots of laughter, lots of transcending issues, or transcending barriers of fear, barriers of old energies. Love can transform it all. It can alchemize it. It can dissolve the things that we fear and step forward into a magical garden, a magical temple, a sacred temple. Imagine temple granding. The chaos she sorts out in ranching requires no chaos around her. Imagine temple grand. Is that a person, Marianne? Is that a person? Temple grandin. The chaos she sorts out in ranching requires no chaos around her. So I wonder if that's a person. Can you let me know in the comments? Oh, it's a person. Okay. Temple Grandin. And that's a person you know about, and she lives on a ranch, yeah? I am sorry, I have no idea. Never heard of Temple Grandin. Never, ever. I assume she lives in a Texas ranch, like Dallas. Shifting and sieving through adversity. Laughter is a form of refining. Butterfly always had a beautiful way of poetry concepts, or beautiful way of words that seem like they come across like poetry, that are expressed as poetry. When you speak, it is like poetry, Butterfly. Shifting and sieving through adversity. Laughter is a form of refining. Yes, laughter is a lighter energy. It's a lighter energy, more refined. It's also can be expressing the vibration, letting go of the seriousness of ourselves, or the seriousness of thinking about ourselves, or being self-focused. So there's always a sense of releasing when we laugh. We let go of that energy, and we realize we're just a spirit. We're just a spirit here to vibrate. That's all we're here to do. We don't have some kind of serious thing to be doing in the world. I know life can seem very serious, and that's part of the growth, to do things perhaps that require some dedication and focus, with not losing our true essence, not losing our true character, love, knowingness, bliss, the type of satnam that vibrates in physical form, the energy that vibrates in a physical form. Marianne says autistic and a college professor. So that's a person who is autistic and a college professor. I thought there was something to do with living in Dallas and having a ranch. So maybe I got that misunderstood what you said, Marianne. temple grounding, the chaos she sorts out in ranching requires no chaos around her. So perhaps she has a very peaceful and still environment which nurtures her nervous system and how she can operate in the world. So having that home, having that sacred garden, that peaceful place to come home to can be incredibly helpful, can be incredibly nurturing. I always think of Frank Lloyd Wright and some of his architectural creations in nature, immersed in forests, immersed in waterfalls, immersed in nature. And always I think that's what we were born on the planet to be experiencing. That's at least what I wish for. And at the moment, I haven't manifested that I am able to visit places like that. And I haven't yet manifested that kind of sacred waters existence, living in a type of, you can think of it as a type of retreat, coming back to the retreat topic. Remember to take a deep breath, a sacred breath of communion, remembering your presence, coming home to yourself, and walking through the heart portal into the beloved, the sense of inner peace, soul, refinement, source, divinity, where we may experience God as embodied souls in this physical realm, realizing that God exists whether we see her or not. She is present in the unseen world, embodied in this world. And we are here as gatekeepers to come home to ourselves and walk through the heart's portal. Please do connect with me online. If you found value in this class, please do like and share. Come back next week, same time, same place. Looking forward to seeing you all and connecting with you all. Wishing everyone a beautiful day, a beautiful evening, wherever you are in the world. Butterfly says, before you go, anything specific, Butterfly? I was just going off in, I was just finishing things off, Butterfly, and it was like a kite. I was just floating off. And all right, so just reminding you that it's important that you connect to not only the divine, but also people. There's a sense of coming home with connection, physical connection, community. And what for me, I think I probably know I am single, so I don't experience physical touch like ever. And so it's important sometimes to do things like have a massage. Massage means at least you're going to get some physical touch. You're going to get some, you're going to have that sense of physical touch. So that could work for you, Butterfly. This is a reminder of your connection to the divine, that you live in a physical vessel, you live in a physical world, you live in a physical body. So you're here to be embodied as a soul. So it's reminding you to connect to physical needs, to community, to not isolate yourself. So that's very much not isolate yourself. Be connected, find a community sense. Your heart is your portal, absolutely. You also need a physical expression, a physical connection. So people sometimes, especially spiritual people, they kind of look down on physical needs, perhaps body functions. They look down on it. It is part of this world. It's not separate from it. It's part of this world. Stu says, thanks, there are lots to think about. Always thinking about you, Stu. Send me a picture. Sending you a big hug in Florida. I want to visit soon. I have another friend as well in Florida. So I've actually been to Florida twice, 3 times. Well, depending on how you think about it. I've been 2 to 3 times because the first time I was flying through Florida, so I was just at the airport for a few hours. The other 2 times I actually stayed in Miami. So stew, lots to think about, lots to stew on. That's a joke. Butterfly says, bless you, David. Thank you so much. And bless you too, Butterfly. Have a beautiful week. To everyone, see you next week on the other side. Bye all.